Hafidades and buenas noches. Thank you all for being here today. This town hall at the home of the Dolphins at Southern High School, held by the Committee on Education, Libraries, and Public Broadcasting, is called to order. Today's date is Tuesday, February 25th, 2025, and the time is 6:05. My name is Senator Vince Borja, and joining me today from our committee are my colleagues, Senator Tina Muñoz-Barnes, Vice Chairperson, Speaker, Acting Lieutenant Governor, Speaker Frank Blas Jr., Vice Speaker Tony Adat, Senator Sabrina Salas Matanani, Senator Joe S. San Augustine, Senator Sean Gumatautau. Additionally, I have Senators Chris Barnett. Is that it? I want to first and foremost thank the Southern High School community, Principal Michael Mennel, and Vice Principals Mr. Santos and Mrs. Bamba for hosting us today. I also want to thank our support staff from my committee, the legislative AV team, and central staff. Thank you for all you do for our community. Board Chairman Sablan and Superintendent Swanson, as well as board members, thank you for your support in joining us. And then I also want to thank the representative from GFT, Mr. Tim Fidenko. Thank you for joining us. Traditionally, you'd have rules of conduct, but I trust that we're here for the sake of our children. I trust that we can be respectful of each other, and it is my ask that we can all work together. I can't do this job alone. I need each and every one of you here today to work with me. We're here to brainstorm ideas and put our minds and muscles together so that we don't have to have a repeat of the start of this school year. And that is why it's really important, and I thought this would be the best way to move forward. While I listened to the monthly oversight hearings in the past, I felt like it was a little confrontational and a little non-conducive. There was a lot of placing blame, yet nobody taking responsibility or extending a helping hand. So we're gonna do things a little different here today. As soon as I turn the mic over to Mr. Angel Sablan, the board chairman, Superintendent Swanson, and our Southern High School principal, Mr. Mennel, for some introductions of their teams and some brief remarks, we'll have a short presentation by GDOE, and then we want to really hear from you, the students, the teachers, and the parents. We did put a few topics that we'd like to discuss, specifically the building and maintenance and facility needs, curriculum and academic opportunities, student support services and well-being, school safety and campus improvements, community involvement, and local initiatives. Now, if there's something else you may like to share, please don't hesitate. We just ask that you be considerate of each other's time and keep in mind you guys still have school tomorrow. And so now we'll call on the Acting Lieutenant Governor, Speaker Blas, to give his opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to my colleagues and to all that are here tonight. As was stated by the good chairman, tonight, I don't want to say it's unprecedented, but I'm glad that it's here, and I think I share that sentiment with everybody here as well as everybody in the crowd, to have a conversation of the way forward. I think there's enough blame to go around as to how we got here. That's not going to help us any. What we're going to need is now some ideas and some ways to be able to move forward. And I'm ready to hear that tonight. I'm sure everybody is here as well. Thank you for taking the time for you all to be here. And let's have a productive meeting tonight. Thank you very much.
And now we'll have Superintendent Dr. Swanson give his opening remarks.
Thank you, and welcome to everyone who's here tonight. I'm glad to have this opportunity to address the community, and more than that, to listen to the community. This is a different format that we've been accustomed to for the last couple of years, and I welcome it. It's a little bit different, We're talking a lot about the local community in this particular school, but we're also going to be looking at the whole overall GDOE system, from the fence at Anderson Air Force Base down here to the southern tip of the island and all of the schools in between. So what we can gain tonight, I hope we can put to help improve the whole overall system, as well as Southern High School and right down the street, Truman Elementary. Thank you.
And now we'll call on Mr. Angel Sablan from the Board of Education, Mr. Chairman, to give his opening remarks.
Buenas and half a day, everyone. I also came here so that I can be a part of listening to the concerns of our school community. You know, the heart of our schools are our teachers and our staff, and the soul of our schools are our students. So we at the board of Guam Education Board want to ensure you that everything that we want to do or can do or will do is for the heart and soul of our school community. Tonight, joining me from the Guam Education Board is Mr. Tim Fedenko, President of GFT, and our student representative from the island-wide Board of Governing Students, short IBOX, Mr. Isaiah. He has a very difficult last name. And of course, the only employee of the Education Board, our superintendent, Dr. Eric Swanson. And I also like to recognize there's a couple of other public officials that are here. We have the mayor of Hagat, Mayor Kevin Susuiko, and the mayor of Santa Rita Sumay, Mayor Dale Alvarez. Thank you for joining us. I'll have the superintendent go back on and introduce the rest of the staff of Central and even some principals and assistant principals that are here. Dr. Swanson.
Okay, up at the table here, we have several of my deputies. Our Finance and Administration Deputy, Wade Paul. Deputy for Curriculum and Instruction, Joseph Sanchez. Director for Community and Educational Service and everything else in between, Dr. Barbara Adamas. And I have several of my other staff in the audience as well that are here that work in their departments that will be able to help. We have here Tom Babauta is our head of special education. Chris Anderson, who is involved heavily with our safety and security. And our food service representative is Sean Manforte. And we also have our Chief of Facilities and Maintenance. There he is. That's Jimmy Pangolinin. And our CIP individual is Nick Cruz. So if there's anyone that I missed, they are here in the audience. These are the experts who work with the details of operating the system on a daily basis.
Thank you, Dr. Swanson. And now, Southern High School Principal, Mr. Meno, to give his opening remarks.
Before I thank the people that I need to thank, I want to share a story about one of our students here at Southern High. Her father was incarcerated. Her mother was heavily involved with drugs. She's the eldest child of, I believe, 6 siblings. And she wanted a better future. She met with our counselors, and our counselors helped her focus on her future, gave her some brochures, and made an appointment to spend some time to look at what she wanted to accomplish. She was on the verge of graduating, and she had all of these challenges. We had to work with the court to have the father released so he can sign some documents to allow her to continue with the scholarship that she was applying for. Her mother needed her to be present for her other siblings, and it didn't seem like she wanted to support this opportunity for her daughter. We just went through COVID. We were preparing for grad and go. She got the scholarship, and they offered her a job while she was there to sustain. This was in Chicago. It was for nursing. On the day for graduation, we had all of the cars lined up. We were proud. We were ready to present the diplomas, but she wasn't there. My team and my counselors knew we had time because it was taking 3 hours to get through that line. And they drove to pick her up, to bring her to that ceremony. She deserved that. So since that challenge, we knew that everything that we're going to do here is because of all the work from the teachers, the staff, the parents, our mayors, our community partners. We knew we could do it because we had everyone involved. But I also want to acknowledge that we are people from the South. We cover the largest part of the island geographically, from Jonia down to Mauricio, through Umatec, back up our way as far up as PD and Assen. We have 7 elementary schools that feed into the 3 middle schools that join us eventually here at 9th grade. Each of our colleagues in the South have their challenges, but they give us the students. They provide them with the skills and everything they need to go to high school. So when they get to high school, this community is trusting us to provide their students, their children, their family with the opportunities just like the other schools in the Central and the North. This community is very humble. They're trusting me and they're trusting the school. My community will find ways. They'll find ways to support us, and they'll find ways to help us. My role today is to speak on behalf of my community, and I believe I will be given that opportunity to share that. Southern High has many successful students, many successful programs, and we would like to continue that. As the principal, I told the senators I feel like I failed. And the reason why I feel like I failed is because I can't give everything that the students will need. And my colleagues and my teachers and my staff remind me that it's not my fault. But that's part of my pride. We are Southern High. We are people from the South. We are a community of the island. And right now, Southern High provides resiliency factors for these students. So that story I shared with you, there was enough resiliency factors in Southern High to help her overcome her challenges, her environmental challenges, to finish with a full scholarship and a job. She came back to us, and Ms. Bamba will tell you, she came back to take responsibility for her siblings. So I want to say thank you to our staff, our teachers, and all the champions who are here tonight. We need you. We need you based on that story I shared. Isaiah, he's here to represent our students. We have Charlie, who's also in our youth congress. Charlie, can you stand, please? Thank you, Charlie. Since COVID, we've turned over the responsibility of the school culture to our students. We turned it all over to us, and we want to give them the support. What they've asked from me is to fix the school. So every graduation, I do apologize to the class that leaves, but I'm unable to fix that part of the school that they need. So when I get my opportunity, I can share with you what we have done, maybe some more highlights, and how we will overcome these challenges. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Meno. Before we go on to into the GDOE presentation on the maintenance program, we'd like to recognize one of the board members, Dr. Mary Okada, who has just joined us. At this time, I'd like to turn the mic over to GDOE, who will give their presentation on the maintenance program. And if you could please state your name and title for the record, please.
Buenas and half day, Acting Lieutenant Governor Blas, Vice Speaker Munya Barnes, Senators, and to my old boss, Mike Meno. It's good to be back at Southern High, where I started in my post-career coming out of the Army. I want to thank you. I'm Deputy Wade Paul. I'm the Deputy for Finance and Administrative Services, and I assumed this role in July of last year. I was interested in taking the job because of my experience here at Southern High School, dealing with maintenance issues as a teacher here. You'll see in my slide presentation, one of my goals is to get maintenance back down to the schools. We're not sufficiently manned currently. You'll see that in the next slide. Go ahead, next slide, please. I know this is a little bit hard to see, but at the very bottom there in red, our maintenance structure when I came on board was 56 personnel, 8 of those being management and support staff. The actual, what we call in the Army, wrench turners, equated to 47 personnel. And one of the things these wrench turners have been doing is breaking up into teams and running around the island, trying to get schools ready for the public health inspection. 47 wrench turners and 41 campuses. When you do the math, that's 1.1 maintainers per school. Quite insufficient to take care of our schools. We were asked in one of the first legislative hearings I sat in on by, I believe it was Senator Blas. One of the senators asked what would be the appropriate number, and my boss, Dr. Swanson, said 84. What I've come up with is a plan to structure teams consisting of skilled workers and some trades helpers and maintenance workers, 10-man teams that will be assigned to one school, but they service 4 other schools, 3 or 4 other schools in their area. Next slide, please. So my first bullet up there is return maintenance to the schools, which is what I just briefed everybody on. The goal is to try to have each team assigned to their stationing campus. The first 2 teams I'm trying to get set up by June of this year, and that one of the first 2 teams will be right here at Southern High School. The teams will be equipped with the right tools. Right now, As I surveyed our teams during the opening of the school year this year, a lot of them are using their personal tools, and so we're going to have to invest in that. And then we also, after we build these teams, we also have to go back and look at our maintenance headquarters. I don't believe we have sufficient number of people. As Dr. Swanson pointed out, he introduced Nick Cruz in the audience. That's our one capital improvements person. And we need at least a team of 2 or 3 to be planning for the future. Next slide, please. The objectives I have is to identify cost savings. One of the most significant cost savings, I believe, we'll save about $2 million per year if we, when the GEF contract, especially when the GEF contract goes away. And the GEF contract is the contract that covers 4 of our campuses, Okadu High School, Istanbul Elementary School? Middle School, League One, and the 4th one, Attica. We're going to transition into these teams over time. Right now, as I looked at the manpower in our facilities and maintenance, we have an abundance of electricians. When for these teams, we only need 8, and you'll see that on one of the slides here. But we don't intend on relieving any personnel that work in our facilities and maintenance. We can utilize them in different positions until they either resign or retire, and then we fill that position with the appropriate skill set. Next slide, please. So this is the pattern of the template that I'm using to station these 10-man teams down at the school. They'll consist of 1 building maintenance supervisor, 1 carpenter, 1 plumber, 1 electrician, 1 HVAC person for the air conditioning systems, 1 welder, and then 2 maintenance workers, junior maintainers, and then 2 trades helpers. That's 80 maintenance personnel. It brings us up from that 1.1 maintenance wrench turners up to 2 people per team. 2 people per campus. Next slide. So I'll just go through and explain how these teams will be stationed at one school and supporting other schools. The maintenance team 1 will be stationed at Maria Ulloa. They will cover down on Istanbul Elementary and Istanbul Middle School, Finagayan Elementary School, and Machinano Elementary School. Next slide. Team 2 will be stationed at Beneventi Middle School. They will cover down on Okadu High School, Weddingale, League One Elementary School, and 1M Guerrero Elementary School. Team 3 will be stationed at BP Carbolito Elementary School, and they will cover down on 3 schools, Tamuning Elementary, JP Torres Success Academy, and then Tejan High School. Some people may ask why Tejan High School. It is a contract school, however, there are maintenance requirements there. The contract does not cover, for example, vandalism. We're responsible for doing any repairs if there's any vandalism in the school. So we just had about a month ago plumbers going in and repairing sinks that were vandalized. Next slide. Maintenance team 4 will be stationed at FB Leon Guerrero Middle School, and they will cover down on Attica, Simon Sanchez. We still have to maintain parts of Simon Sanchez, D.O. Perez Elementary School, and UPI Elementary School. Team 5 will be stationed at Antolon Middle School, and they will cover down, provide support to PC Lohan Elementary School, Price Elementary School, and JQ San Miguel Elementary. Team 6 will be stationed at Inaran Middle School, and their coverage will be Maritzo Elementary, Inaran Elementary School, Talafofo Elementary School, and MU Lujan Elementary School. Team 7 will be stationed here at Southern High School. They'll cover down on Harry S. Truman, Oceanview Middle School, Marshall A. Sablon, Jose Rios Middle School. And lastly, Team 8 will be stationed at George Washington High School. They'll cover down, provide support to Orta Chalampago, Agata Johnston, CL Titano, Upper Heights Elementary. Next slide. The shortages we have to build these teams that we've already started the hiring process for. Refrigeration mechanics, AC personnel, HVAC, we're short 7. Plumber 1, we're short 2. Electrician 1, we're short 1. Welder 6. Maintenance worker 2, and trades workers 14. Again, we're trying to hire at the lower levels, trades helpers, maintenance workers, and then part of this plan is to have an apprentice program with GCC to move those workers, to get those workers trained into the skill sets and move them up as vacancies occur. So thanks to our legislature, we did receive a supplemental appropriation. A lot of that, about $4 million, is going to build these teams. And why does it cost so much? The personnel requirement to hire those individuals that I just explained is about 1.1 million. Tools and equipment, again, our teams are working with personal tools, and we need a one-time procurement of about $900,000 worth of tools. Maintenance materials need to be stocked every year. This will be a recurring cost. Just to open up the schools this school year ran us close to $2 million. We believe that as we go along and keep these maintenance teams repairing stuff and fixing things down at the schools, our maintenance materials will go down, but we still need to plan for budgeting for maintenance materials every year. That's about $1 million. And then we need to set up the team stationing locations, putting in caged areas. My instructions to the facilities and maintenance team is that we're not putting any tools or maintenance materials in at any location until we have caged areas so we can prevent any kind of theft of those valuable items. And we estimate the building we looked at here at Southern is right behind us, building 9,000, needs to be cleaned out, renovated, put the cages in, get the internet hooked up so that the team members can jump online and submit their work orders online, have phone connections, put in furniture, put in their saw tables, for example, in their work areas. That we estimate will cost about another $900,000. So that's about $4 million of the $5 million that the legislature appropriated. And we're moving forward with this plan. Again, the idea is to have 2 teams set up by June and 6 teams, that's our goal, and then 6 teams set up, the other 6 set up by September 30th. So what's going to require successful implementation? Being retired Army, I'm a strong believer in leadership And I've spoken to the team leaders that will assume responsibilities for these teams. It is going to take their leadership and the higher leadership, us following up on their requirements, their needs, checking on their activities. I plan to make regular visits down to the teams to see what issues they have that need my assistance to resolve. But it will take leadership at the team level. The priorities for the teams are, number one, to prepare their 5 or 4 schools for annual public health inspections. And then number 2, complete submitted work orders. Then the other thing that will make this successful in the eyes of the Guam taxpayers is we ensure that we maintain property accountability, and that's with those hardened and secured cages where tools are kept and maintenance material is kept. We're also going to make sure that the members of the team sign for their tools every day as they take it out of the tool cage. And then training and education, evaluations, and a bonus program. Like I said earlier, we'd like to have an apprentice program set up with GCC for the maintenance workers we hire and the trades helpers, so that those lower level members of the team have the opportunity to gain skills in plumbing, HVAC, electrician, carpenter, or welding, and they can ultimately move up into a skilled position, or ultimately become a team leader and possibly even the facilities and maintenance supervisor. Where do we go from here? Our GDOE has already begun hiring trades helpers, maintenance workers, and has begun the hiring process of getting those people on board, and HVAC personnel. F&M are 2 teams that we've identified. They know that our goal is to have the 2 locations, Maria Ujoa and Southern High School, established by June of this year. And then it's going to be my responsibility to ensure that office requirements are met, desk, computers, phone, internet connection, etc. Next slide. I want to give a little bit of an update on the GDOE refurbishment projects. As everyone knows, we have 12 schools that are going through refurbishment. The specific disciplines or areas that are being refurbished are roof coating, crack and spall repair, restrooms renovation, walkway canopies, and exterior door replacements and electrical upgrades. Next slide. So these are just some photos from from George Washington High School that have the roof coating being applied to it by Cortec. Next slide. Roof coating is completed at 8 of the 12 schools. Finnegayan Elementary and D.O. Perez Elementary School are ongoing today. And then Oceanville Middle School and Marshall Sablon Elementary are scheduled for April. Next slide. In March, we're expecting that Cortec will start putting on the doors of at George Washington High School, and these are steel doors, which was the superintendent's goal, to have doors entering classrooms, to have steel doors because of the concern of active shooters. Restroom renovations also will begin at Ordet Chalampago Elementary in March. And then in the summer, for all schools being refurbished, we have the electrical upgrades, exterior door replacements, and restroom renovations. Next slide. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, GDOE, for your presentation. Now we'll open the floor to any questions for GDOE based on the presentation that he provided. Again, if you would like to speak, please state your name and title for the record. We'll start with anybody in the audience have any questions for GDOE in regards to the maintenance proposal? You could use the mic, sir. Caleb.
Okay, my name is Rudy Barstanella. I live right across Southern High. My question is whatever happened to the team that they had a couple years way back, that they had for Central and Northern, Central, and Southern, or maintenance crew? That's
Yeah, over the years, my understanding of that is the numbers have continued to be cut, to the point that we still have a northern and a southern superintendent for maintenance, but they're limited with about 2 teams each that they can send out to various schools to prepare them for the public health inspection. And it's insufficient. Even as I looked at this problem, even just going back to 4 teams, we will still be struggling. I think 8 teams of 10 taking care of 4 or 5 schools in their areas, it would be more successful. Again, that equates to about 2 maintenance personnel per campus. Now, we don't want to because these are a mix of skill sets, and that's why they've got to be teams. We don't want to provide just 2 maintenance people at a school, and we're not filling out our requirements for the appropriate skill sets.
okay. And my other question is, I'm a retired DOE myself too. I did 31 years for the Department of Education. I've known a lot of guys in maintenance, and I have spoken to a lot of them, especially from the South. Their concern that I noticed is that management was, this problem with management. And some of the guys that I know, they don't want to speak up because they don't want to lose their job. I say, hey, since I'm retired, you tell me, I'll speak up for you. And I did. Majority of them, they came up to me and they spoke to me about it. And I did deal with, a couple years back, I did spoke to somebody, I forgot who's that lady downtown. I spoke about what's going on down here in Southern High. But it seems like nobody, it's like I had never got any word back from them. So I don't know what's going on at the DOE, so.
Yeah, I will say that our maintenance crew is very stressed. They're overstretched. And we're trying to fix that problem.
All right. Okay, and my third question is concerning Southern High, because you guys always mention about the safety of students first. How about staff? Every morning when I come here to drop my son at school, the lighting out here in the front of the school is really bad. And I spoke to that one lady that's in the front. I'm not going to say her name, but she's always, I say, what happened to the lighting, sir? This is one of the safety for you guys, not just the students. So that's one of my concerns that I have problem up here in Southern High. Why is all the lightings turned on the inside, but nothing on the front? So where here is the main gate? Is it back here or up there? Because honestly, it seems like this other gate back here in the south side, the light needs to turn back on. And I feel sorry for that lady. Before holding a flashlight out there, go like this, trying to figure out who's coming in, who's going out. So that's one of my concerns up here in front for the safety of the staff, not just the students. So, sir, Mike, if you could please take care of that issue there.
Yes, we actually did a request. The electrician explained to me that one of the relays burnt out. So they're trying to get a part to replace that, and we'll turn on the rest of the lights.
Okay. Yep. I'm just concerned about the safety of.
Yes, we need them to get it done faster, but that's what was explained to me.
Okay. And I did report it in. I spoke to a lady here in the main office. I don't know, I forgot, I didn't catch her name. But I did report it in concerning about lighting in the front.
Yes, My staff have been reporting it. We've been sending it up.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Charlie Hermosa, and thank you so much. Thank you so much for the report. Just wanted to start off with some good stuff. And just came back from my alma mater at the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy, and we have 3 students that are graduating this year from Kings Point, New York, 2 from Teason High, and 1 from St. John's. The acceptance rate is almost 10%. So we're doing something right when it comes to a public school system out of a high school. So that is on the positive side. Some of the questions that I've had, and some of, from a business perspective, we do a lot of outreach programs with a lot of the elementary schools and high schools. And in talking to some of the principals, we've been able to have good discussions on the inspection process. And when you look at the inspection process, there are things there that actually do not make sense. So one is, can we review that process and streamline it? Because, for example, there was a school that got hit because they had discolored, one tile was white and one tile was blue. I mean, they all had tiles. I mean, if Home Depot doesn't have that colored tiles, why are we hitting the school for not having the right colored tile, which is absolutely insane in my mind. The second thing is, when we talk about leadership, the one thing that I've been asking is, who's the project manager for everything that you've highlighted? Like, where does the buck stop when it comes to ensuring that the things are getting done on a weekly basis?
That would be me.
Okay, so you are the project manager for this.
Well, what do you mean by project?
The way, I mean, in this scale and this scope that you outline, it's not a scope or scale where somebody can just stop in, say hello, kind of check in, and see how things are going. Yeah. I mean, this is an undertaking that needs to be followed every hour, every minute. So, you in the military.
Ultimately, when we get these teams established, our facilities, we got in the leadership of facilities and maintenance. We've got the supervisor, and then he's got 2 assistants or deputies under him that work on the north and the south.
And so, again, you in the military, I was in the military as well, I was in the Marine Corps. And so, when we have a process, right, and especially when we follow a project management process, and I see some of my students here from UOG, so they know what I'm talking about because this is what I teach at UOG, is, so fundamentally, if the project manager should have a daily, weekly meeting with every single one of these teams, and there should be a progress report as far as what's happening on a weekly basis. Can we see, or can you commit to showing us sort of a transparent process that's happening on a weekly or maybe bi-weekly or monthly basis so we see the progress? So if we see a door that's been identified, it's not going to take 6-8 months to fix. We can start looking at it and, a dashboard that the public, the community can actually see that things are happening. And we don't have to wait for another year to hold these, meetings to understand exactly what's getting done.
Yeah. We do have weekly meetings. The problem is this is being set up. This is not what we have right now. We have 41 wrench turners, 47 wrench turners for 41 schools. I'm trying to build that up to 80 wrench turners with the appropriate tools and parts to maintain our schools. This is not established. The first 2 teams will be established in June. But we do have weekly meetings led by a gentleman right back there, Chris Anderson. And that's to get the schools ready for the public health inspections. That is our focus right now, and I call that, because I was a maintainer in the Army, reactive maintenance. And we need to move away from reactive maintenance and go to proactive maintenance. And the first step of that, I realized when I was teaching here at Southern, is getting maintainers back down, not at every school, because we can't afford that, but down where they're within reach of the principals. So the principals will understand, and when I brought the proposed team leader down here to look at Building 9000, where we plan to put the first 2 teams, one of the first 2, made it, Mr. Meno sort of joked with me Because I said, remember, sir, these teams work for 5 principals. They actually work for their maintenance superintendents. But my plan is that their evaluation will get input from the five or 4 principals they serve.
Yeah, I mean, I hope we can develop that
Yeah.
scorecard, so at least we can see that the progress is happening, and, you know, we're working on it. It's not acceptable. I think that we deserve to be able to understand exactly what's getting done.
Yep.
And also the accountability for the different teams. There has to be performance, like you said. If we do unfortunately hire folks that are not meeting the performance, we need to make sure that we have that changeover so that we get the right people in
Right.
place. But it goes back to the project manager, in my perspective.
Right.
There has to be somebody that's accountable for that. So I appreciate that. That was
Okay.
all my statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for GDOE in regards to their maintenance program?
Hello, I'm Kaylin Michael Meno, proud daughter of Michael Meno. I am also a graduate of Southern High, class of 2017. I'm speaking on my own accord. Nothing reflects the opinions of my father. Would like to make that very clear. And he'll tell you I speak for myself anyway. So my question for tonight is relative to the presentation. I heard some schools listed, but I'm not entirely sure I heard the Southern schools for the projects and refurbishment projects. So that's my question on right now, the presentation made. What will be done to address the issues currently here at Southern High? And pardon me, I'm kind of really cold. This is the first time I felt this way in this cafeteria, so just forgive me for that.
Can I answer, sir? Southern High School was on the list initially, and for one reason or another, by the time it went through, administrative problems caused it to be taken off, which is very disappointing for me since I went up to the headquarters from this school. But the next step is, again, putting these teams down where we can take care of some of the issues down here, the easy stuff. And then my next goal is, once I get these teams established, is to ask our legislature to help us with capital improvements, the big stuff that, the maintenance teams can't take care of. And that's like the sports field down here. No, I fully understand where you're coming from. I was disappointed that Southern was taken. It all boiled down to funding. We did not have, this is all paid by the American Rescue Plan, the refurbishment, and if we tried to do all 41 campuses, we wouldn't have any money left over for other requirements.
So my follow-up question to that is, as the only public high school down south, why was it not a priority to keep Southern High on that list?
We tried, but we had, of course, we tried very hard to keep public Southern High School on the list, but the administrative issues we were running into, of course, we had to have that money, that project approved by USAID on the 30th of September last year, and the timing just did not allow it to happen. So what my boss did, Dr. Swanson, was actually add some more schools that we could get through the AG's office for approval, and sadly we had to take Southern off.
I previously worked in the legislature in the 36th under Senator Nelson. She was the oversight on education at the time, and that is when I recall the CARES Act and ARP funding first initially introduced. So another follow-up question is, in all this time that has passed, why hasn't Southern High been a priority since the beginning?
I'm really in no position to answer that. I'll ask my boss to answer that because I don't know what happened before in July of last year. But I know we had administrative problems with with including Southern High in the contract.
The contract, whoa, battery died. Okay, the package of, to roll back about 18 months, the package of procurement contracts to do all of the schools, to do that same refurbishment project for all of them, was presented, put out for bid. The bid came back at $284 million to do all the schools. The allocation in the grant was $261 million. Southern High School was the most expensive of the schools. I intended to do this school. So I put it in a package with 3 or 4 other schools to go to the Attorney General's office for evaluation. And this was after the bid was in. And there's a technicality in the scope of work that was written for this school and the one for Inarajan Middle School. We had to pull 2 of them. The opinion from the Attorney General's office was if I wanted to change the scope for this school, we had to rebid the whole package. And there was not time to do that. So we were only able to fund, initially I was only going to be able to fund 6 schools. But as we got closer to the deadlines, we had the problem with this school. I had to pull it off. I had to pull Inarajan Middle School off. I wanted to do both of them because they're in the worst shape of all of them. The proposed package for this school was a $24 million project.
When were those issues for the scope of project realized?
The issue was around language around canopies that was not consistent with the language around canopies in the other contracts that were bid. I proposed to the AG's office that we take that section out of the contract and just bid the rest of it. They wouldn't allow it.
Oh, sorry, no, my question was, when was those issues realized? If it was a matter of time frame to not be able to rebid?
The time frame that came up, as I recall, it was in the July to August time frame of 2024.
That's quite concerning. That's pretty late for those issues to be brought up.
I can't attest why they weren't brought up before. I wasn't even in the role of superintendent, but that contract, when that bundle of contracts had to be, first of all, written, presented to the AG's office for screening, and allowed to then be advertised. Then it goes out to advertisement, and we go through the whole selection process. I came into the role as superintendent after those contracts were already written and approved for the first round by the Attorney General and had been advertised. So I didn't get into it till after that it came back from the bid process. And at the same time, we had an individual in our CIP project that was selected, had been in the job 1 month, and his wife got hired for another job and they left. So we had no one technically qualified to go through and evaluate that. But the point that the Attorney General's office was making is that if we change the language in one of the schools, either one, we had to rebid the whole package because that's how it was put together to begin with.
Okay. Another question I have is relative to the auditorium. I believe in the 36th legislature, a public law was passed by Congressman Moylan at the time that would have allowed, I believe, the use of tax credits to fund the reconstruction. My question to GDOE is, what efforts have been made since that time the law was passed?
I don't have any background information on that.
Yes, so my stakeholders worked with Senator Moran at the time to award $1 million in tax credit for vendors to fix the air conditioning and to refurbish our fine arts auditorium. We had 2 vendors come in, but as a school, I don't do invitation for bids and I don't create projects. We sent this up through our prior superintendents and our prior board members for action. So this was since our Superintendent Fernandez and then all of the interim superintendents after that. and we have not seen any action on it.
I was a student also utilizing the band, so I recall when I entered high school, it was brand new. So to see the state of it now, it's greatly disappointing. When the Gate Theater in Teton had closed and they had migrated to use our auditorium, it was really great to see all the schools that came to visit, all my classmates and other schools and their students who participated, and it gave such a great sense to partake in theater and the arts. So I just hope after tonight you guys take from me this drive to revisit it and explore these options to bring back that gem of the South, because it's more than just the school. It can be utilized for the community as well. And I would say maybe my final question is, in the time where the schools were going through their inspections in the previous school year, and volunteers are called on to help and assist in repairing the schools, the staff and the faculty of each school also had to work together to bring the schools up to code. My question is, were these individuals compensated for the extra time outside of working the 8 to 5 to bring these schools up to code?
If I understand, you said, were the maintenance workers compensated?
Not maintenance workers, but the aides,
the
the
aides.
teachers, everyone whose job is in maintenance, and who had to help and bring everything up to code. Were they compensated for that extra time?
No, as you know, we're not fully budgeted, and if we do that for one school, it's hard to do it for and then another school and another school and another school. So the decision was made to not provide any compensation and just thank the teachers and staff that helped prepare. I know I visited down here at Southern, and some of my old colleagues were helping prepare the schools for their inspection.
Is there a way to, in the interim, while you guys are short-staffed for maintenance workers, is there a way to hire internally or to pay internally for those individuals who are responsible for the maintenance and upkeep at their schools while not holding those titles?
You mean school employees?
Yes.
We could look at that. Concern is, a lot of these are trained people, HVAC personnel, plumbers, and somebody may have home experience of getting it done, but if that person gets injured, then it's, a possible lawsuit. So it's something we can look at, but those are the risks that we need to analyze also.
All right. All right. So to close out, with the withdrawal of federal funding or the potential loss, I just asked the 38th Guam Legislature if you could please do your best to fully fund GDOE in their annual budget request this year, so as to allow them to address these issues here at the schools. I'm a product of the South. I've gone to Emmylou Han, Harry S. Truman, and Ocean View Middle School, graduating here in Southern High. I have a lot of pride for here, and I would love to see the future generations continue to thrive and not be left behind. Thank you.
Now that we got that out of the way with the maintenance presentation and the questions, we'll now open the floor for discussion. Again, we're seeking input from the teachers, the students, the parents, and the community on building maintenance and facility needs, curriculum and academic opportunities, student support services and well-being, school safety and campus improvements, community involvement, and local initiatives. But if you have anything else you'd like to share, please do. Again, please just state your name, which school or organization or village you're from, and if you'd like to speak, please raise your hand and we can get a mic to you.
There's 2 seats.
Hi, good evening. My name is Charlie Balbostro. Um, with the concerns of Southern High, Mr. Michael Meno, um, let me ask you this. So, with the wings in the hallway restrooms, when I went there, it's wet and they kind of broken with their toilets. So, is there a way that you can fix it or find any other custodial workers that will be able to fix it?
That's a very good question, Charlie. Thank you for asking that. We did create a handout for everyone here. Our restrooms have been our biggest challenge. It's still the same restroom since 1997. When we went through the inspection, we did get some assistance to get the stalls to meet the standard height. The urinals, the toilets, and the sinks were all a big challenge. We had to cannibalize a lot of those fixtures from other parts of the school just to get the right ratio for you guys to use. It's hard to maintain. We are contracted by Guam Cleaning Masters. They currently provide us with just 4 custodians in the day. And you know from experience, right, this is a big school and needs need to be met. So I've asked for more custodial personnel to be assigned during the day to make sure that they can maintain it. You have students coming here as early as 6 o'clock, having breakfast. They need the bathroom during that time. We have 6 periods, we have break, and then we end at 1:45. So throughout the day, those bathrooms need to be cleaned and maintained. And I agree with you. But with the 4 custodians, that's not enough. And you know who are the aides in each wing, right? You can let them know if it's not acceptable, and then they can get that information to us, and we can get the GCM employees there. But there is plans to renovate the restrooms, and I've been saying that every year, right? So in the breakdown, I did look at trying to get 4 of the building's restrooms renovated through our local budget, since it's not included in the renovation project. So this is going up through a proposal from this fiscal year, and it's now moving forward to the legislature.
For FY, are you talking about FY 26?
Yes.
Yes.
Right, so more to come. Once that is approved, then those restrooms can be renovated.
Okay. So another thing that I wanted to say. So when we have a Guam Youth Congress meeting here at Southern High School last month, so there was a student that was saying that a teacher was sick due to a mold in her classroom. So she was out for a few days. There was a student that shared that to us.
Okay.
So is there a way, is there any concerns that you may want to share?
Well, the mold mitigation since the storm, that's still pending. We did go through some training regarding the misconceptions of mold. So the mold that we do have here is not the mold that is dangerous. The message is if there's mold, we just need to clean it. And right now the staff have worked really hard to address the mold. Guam Cleaning Masters have done it. But if you look at the school, the humidity needs to be maintained, and the way we maintain it is with air conditioning. So if the classrooms don't have air conditioning, then the likelihood of mold growing will occur. But from what I understand from the experts, this mold is not dangerous. We just have to clean it.
So the last thing I want to ask is, when will the library, the gym, and the field be open?
That is a very good question. So there is a cost to it. Right now, I don't have a cost for the gym because the gym structure is still good. It's very clean. The citations we received for the gym was because of humidity and temperature. And all of the 20-ton units are not working. So that has to be addressed before we can get re-inspected. The doors, we do have violations for the doors. We were broken into, I believe, 3 years ago. We have panic doors. Senator Augustine was able to walk through with me to look at those doors. I don't have the exact cost to replace those doors, but I do know it is a challenge to replace it. In addition to that, the electrical, I only know so much about electrical. From what I understand, the flow, based on how the air conditioners were installed, the connection is too great that the voltage starts to wane, and then it impacts the air compressors, and that's what causes those air conditioners to go down. So internally, we need to get that fixed, or either through a contract, get that addressed at the same time as the air conditioning.
Will this include the nurse's office as well?
Yes, so we did submit after our inspection all of the areas that we've currently identified as not in use and cordoned off. That is about 60% of the school, including the nurses building, building 5,000, and throughout the rest of the buildings. We don't have a cost for it. That would require a scope of work. But based on what I've seen in the past, the refurbishment projects would cost 17 million, but that's already 7 years old, so it may cost more. And I don't have the exact estimate for it. But when it comes to the school, we want to make sure you have classrooms. We did sacrifice the gym, and that was a big part of the school culture. I know you guys are coming to me because you don't have assemblies, you don't have places to practice, and that's a big loss for you guys because of intramurals as well. But I don't have a cost for it, but I do have a target of April, and that's what we agreed with upper management, that maintenance will help us get it back into code by April. The challenge will be getting it re-inspected. And we're doing this as fast as we can, but you can make your observations, right?
Yes.
And you know how fast it's moving.
Yep.
All right, thank you, Charlie.
I think I'd like to give GDU, if you could at least address some of, because I think it's unfair for Mr. Meno to try and explain kind of what's going, like so if you guys can, like, I guess, give some kind of update or information to the audience in regards to the things that Mr. Meno has.
Yeah, I'm going to ask my facilities and maintenance manager to come on up, because he was just down here addressing these issues. And we are trying to do a contract to, or to have them fix it themselves, the library and the nurse's office.
Hi, good evening. Jim Pangolina, the facilities manager. Everything that you brought up, the gym, the nurse's office, the library, and we're also trying to do the maintenance room. We're trying to get everything re-inspected by June. And the only reason why we have to do it that way is because if we bring them in now and we fail the gym, or we get, let's say, 20 points, they add those demerits to what is currently here in the school. So you guys have a possible shutdown of the school. So we don't want to chance that. We want to make sure that you guys stay in school. That's why we did all this work for you guys to come back to school, right? So you guys are in school now. Give us the opportunity to do what we do, and give us a chance to bring back your nurse's office, your library, your gym, and then we'll have the maintenance room ready to continue to work and ensure that this doesn't transpire again. So you got my word, Jim Pangolina, facilities manager, that by June, you guys will have your library back, your nurse's office, and your gym. Okay? Anything else? Hooah. All right. Hooah. Anything else, sir?
Any of the senators have any questions for Mr. Jimmy?
It's been a while. Yeah, Jimmy, thank you for answering those questions. And you mentioned targeting June. I wanted to ask about the funding for all those repairs. Does GDOE currently have the money to complete those projects by June?
We have some of the material on site for the gym. I think we have everything for the gym that's required. But what's holding us back from inspecting that gym is that we want to ensure that we can reopen a lot of stuff that have been cordoned off. And if we, just like I said, if we do the gym now, they're gonna have to come back and do the remaining three areas that we want inspected. So by June, we have $1 million put aside right now for materials and labor. We got $800,000 for tools and equipment. And everything else that was instructed by the old man, he said he wants it done, so we'll get it done by June. Now, we do have the money. It's still in the process of being procured, still in a rec form, but everything, the money's been identified, the jail count is good. Now our procurement will start doing what they need to do.
And you believe that you'll be able to move through the procurement that quick to get all the materials and everything you're going to need to accomplish everything by June?
Yes, I have faith in my my procurement team, and I have faith in my maintenance team that we can do it.
Okay, since we're still on Southern High School, how much money is going to be needed? What is the estimate to fix Southern High? All of it, everything. Is it 24 million? Is that what I heard?
24 mil was just the tip of the iceberg. That was only for the roof, the bathrooms. It wasn't for everything. Currently, right now, we have AC issues. The AC problems right now, we have AC on hand, but the way they wrote the contract, the way we bid it on the contract was wrong. We brought in all package units, and they have a lot of these split ducted units. So in order for us to get those remaining package units in, we have to pay for a conversion fit.
So what is the number? Is it 24? Is it 34? Is it 264?
It's the
To
refurbishment.
fix Southern High School, how much is it going to cost?
I don't think anyone's ever collected all of the requirements to fix Southern High School. The 24 million that was quoted earlier covers the 5 project areas that Cortec is doing. Bathroom refurbishment, electrical upgrade, canopy, walkway canopies, crack and spall.
And the doors.
And then the doors, replace the doors. That's what 24 million was bringing us.
And I wanted to follow up on what Ms. Meno was talking about regarding the tax credits, because it was just Mr. Meno who was answering her questions regarding the public law, Title 12, Chapter 77, regarding tax credits, and how it was mentioned that there were 2 vendors that responded. Does anybody from the board or DOE, anywhere in the public that is familiar with this situation, have any kind of background on it that can fill us in on what happened and whether or not we're actually kind of moving forward with trying to implement this law? Anybody?
Mr. Meno, when was the tax credits sent into
Ms.
the
Meno mentioned it was in the 36th Guam legislature.
This is 2020, and this is Public Law 35-143.
It's the first I heard of it, but we will look into it. I am not aware of this public law.
Okay, thank you. Well, now you are. So hopefully we can, look at this law and try and find some funding sources for GDOE, not just necessarily, coming to the Guam legislature when you have laws in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Matanani. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to add up, I did receive some constituent concerns from the folks here at Southern High as it relates to their outside grounds facilities, their fields, their baseball field, their soccer field, their football field, baseball, softball, football, rugby, and the swimming, of course, the swimming pool that is not Olympic sized, but it's still a pool that was made based on providing for the southern community also. Where are we at on that? And I know that there was a commitment that the committee will talk about it during this meeting. So maybe Jimmy or anybody from DOE can answer that as it relates to, as we're looking at all these funds coming in and all the funds that we still have, where do we incorporate these facilities also? Because the students and some of the teachers and coaches are inquiring.
Senator Mark Crisosmo, I've asked him to look into the sports facilities. They're not including the swimming pool and what it's going to take, and he's done an analysis. Mark?
So maybe an update so the faculty, the students, and the coaches can know what's going on with all those playing facilities.
Yes, my name is Mark Crisostomo. So the update on the athletic fields, currently we're doing the market research to repair the football field. Yesterday, I believe DPW, Senator Borja, I believe, did a walkthrough to do a assessment, or DPW is going to do an assessment for the football field and then pass that assessment to me so I can incorporate that into the SOW for the statement of work to repair the football field. And then as more funds are available, then we'll shift focus to repair the baseball field and then eventually the softball field.
You know, Mr. Chair, I do know that based on the, there may be an availability of funds, maybe even up to $2 million that the Board of Education can look at as it relates to refurbishing and renovating these fields. If I'm not mistaken, let me just confirm that funding source. The limited gaming fund.
Yes, I am
And I
tracking that
wanted
fund.
to see if that was even being a model, I mean, the funding source could be utilized to work on these, because there was a commitment over and over and over that these fields and these facilities will be looked at. You've got the facilities, the building, you've got the grounds, and then you've got everything else, the sporting fields here. How can everything be incorporated?
So I am tracking the limited gaming funds, and that is the funding that we are using to repair the football field.
So are we getting any drawdowns already for it, or?
No, that's local money, ma'am. And the money is, that's why I sent Mark, I put Mark on this project, is we've decided in the ESFC committee meeting, Senator Borja was there, where we talked about using that money to do a sports field. And I think that was
I think, Mr. Chair, if they're tracking all of this, I think we need to continue this follow-through and see what can be incorporated. And if the funds, because I know that that's hard cash, that we can look at seeing how the resources that are available today, how, if we're already working on something, that, how can that be included in? So just food for thought, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Barnes. And one more question, and then we'll go back to the community. Vice Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Paul, I just have two questions. One, the contract that's going out currently, is that the $125 million contract that with Cortec? The one that the roofing
For the
repairs and everything?
refurbishment, yes.
Yeah. Is there a contract manager on board on this?
For GDOE, no, there, you mean a hired contract manager?
Right. Contract management, contract management team, there's a construction management team or?
There's a construction management
Right.
team, but that
Is
is
there?
Cortec.
Pardon?
That is Cortec.
So we have the people that are repairing the work, inspecting their work.
Well, our one capital improvements person, Nick, he goes out and he looks at the work, but we
So
do not have
we
a.
didn't have a construction management team or person within the contract when this contract went out to inspect the work that is being done by Cortec?
So the refurbishment project was, the scope of work was written by GPA. There was about 8 engineers who went out to all the schools and did the scope of work for the refurbishment. So I am the point of contact for GDOE to Cortec, but when I do the inspections, obviously we rely on GPA's help. They're really the backbone of this refurbishment project. So we rely on GPA's help to help do the inspections. So they're called the quality inspection reports, right? That they submit to us. And then whenever a roof coating is completed, for instance, at Benevenci Middle School, we call out GPA engineers, specifically Bart Cruz, who was one of the key personnel involved in writing the scope of work to help do the QC.
So they do the inspection and then they sign off that it was properly done and inspected?
Yes, correct, yes.
And is the GPA getting any payment for that?
No, not currently. Well, originally we did GPA on board. DFAS, I believe that.
We paid the hourly wages of Bart Cruz when he was working on with us to do his engineering stuff.
So do we have a contract, do we have a construction
We have
management
a
team on board?
we do not have a.
So who are we paying then to?
The GPA engineers.
So we're paying GPA to certify the work that it's been completed properly?
So far, only the one engineer, Mr. Cruz.
I see, okay. So my other question is, the mold issue down here in Southern High, I'm sure that it's throughout the other schools as well. Who is the mold mitigation expert that is checking these schools to ensure that the mold is not something that we have to worry about, or that our children or the teachers, the faculty is not getting ill by this mold?
Yeah, we have the mold mitigation contract is being handled by GSA, not by GAOE. They have the money. They have not turned over that contract, and it's currently they were trying to put it out for bid, but then there was a protest. And so it's currently under protest.
So we don't know where we're at with mold then, right?
No, until that protest is lifted, then they will put a contract out for the mold mitigation.
I mean, that's concerning. I hope that we get some type of testing or some type of results that say that, there's nothing that the teachers and students have to worry about. Thank you.
Hi,
Thank you, Mr.
Senator, I got an answer for you. So
sure.
we met with GSA's attorney. So what we're after now is we're going to go ahead and try to just do a air quality control first. And if we can do the air quality control, that will identify what school has mold. And And then they'll, as part of the project, they would have to tell us how to mitigate it. But the first priority they want to do is do the mold quality first and ensure that there is no mold in the school, or if there is. And then that's how we identify the schools, and then we move forward from there. So that right now is being worked on with Nick Cruz and the GSA, what's her name? Andriana. She's the acting SMA there.
Yeah, okay. I hope that gets done quickly because, mold is a very, very health concern that we should all be really worried about,
Yeah.
because especially those with asthma or any respiratory illnesses that they need to worry about. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. Anybody else from the community like to make a comment or ask questions? Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tony Kirigua. I'm a private citizen. I'm from the village of Talafofu. I came tonight because my son he won't admit that he's being bullied, but he has been intentionally self-sabotaging himself by getting suspended. This is his 5th time to get suspended. Now, one of the things that he has done, he has ingested marijuana-laced gummies. He has brought alcohol to school. He has done a lot of stuff. Now, the question I have is to the school is, has these incidents been reported to GPD? Because when I was so upset, I took my son to go try and get him arrested at GPD for what he was doing. And they said that there was no report from Southern High to Southern Precinct especially about my son's latest incident. There were at least, I was told, approximately 10 people that got suspended because they were all under the influence of alcohol. Now, my son, I was trying to find more information on it, and he won't talk. And so for somebody who's going to keep getting in trouble just so he doesn't have to go to school, something I think is wrong, what's going on. And I don't take very much stock in everything that he says because he believes that there's a gang group in this school that has been targeting students that are by themselves, that are not in a group with anybody else. And so my concern is when these situations happen, does the school report these things to GPD? Is there a report that is made? And also, I've told my son, I said, all you have to do is get off the bus, go straight to the office, go straight to, one of the parapros or, whoever, so that he's within earshot, or they can see him, that he's being coerced into doing things. So I don't know if it has anything to do with tonight's meeting, but that was my concern that I wanted to bring up, because my son actually told me, Dad, school isn't the same as when you went to school. And granted, it's been it's been several years since I've been in school. So I don't know if it's changed. I was a short person. If you ever look at GCC's Army ROTC, you'll find that there's a line and then there's this thing down here and then goes this way. Well, I was this guy down here. So I want to know if there's anything that the school is doing for kids that are being harassed. And then in regards to the bathroom situation, I noticed that Ross and a lot of department stores have cameras inside the bathroom to ensure that their bathrooms are not being vandalized. While sitting in the back, you could hear where the gentleman was complaining that there was water in one of the bathrooms. And so a couple of the people said, you know, we just had it inspected, so we shouldn't have these problems. But have we thought of putting some sort of camera system, surveillance system in the bathrooms to ensure that our bathrooms, that's the first place that I believe that gets vandalized when kids are in there. That's the place, I mean, when I was a kid, that's the place you ran to go smoke your cigarettes, you know? Of course, I didn't smoke, but, you know, those are the things I'm looking at. What are we doing to protect the school after we've already repaired it, after we've already refurbished it? What are we doing to ensure that it doesn't get vandalized? I heard that you guys said that we're putting steel doors on the classrooms, which is good. Let's put the hinges on the inside of the classroom and not on the outside, because they're still going to get access just by popping the hinges. So that's my 2 cents. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Hello, Annalisa Ratumbin. I'm a parent. My kids go to Southern High. I kind of had a question. This is the proposed projects for Southern. Is there like a website, not necessarily just for Southern, on all these projects where we can actually go in and say, hey, what's the status of this project? Like the auditorium, it's been budgeted, or it's not budgeted, or it's been awarded 20% completion. Just something as quick and simple so we know where it's at, or someone can actually answer for it. Because I mean, like, just like Ms. Mena was talking about the auditorium, that's an ongoing thing, but nobody had an answer to provide. And not necessarily just for Southern, but actually for all the other schools.
At this time, there is not a dashboard on the website that you can go and look at specific projects. The contracts that are active, the refurbishment contracts, those entire contracts are online. But to talk, the kind of thing you're talking about, we don't have up yet.
Online as, and DOE's
On
website?
our website. Yeah, they have to be on the web. The projects as they are awarded, those contracts have to be put online so the public can examine them.
But that's only if they're awarded, not
That's
it's
correct.
state prior to that, or if it's even prior to that. So only when it's awarded.
That's correct.
Another question, and please correct me if I misunderstood. You were mentioning that Southern was pulled off for funding because it was too high. Are budgets done per school or per project? Like,
It wasn't, let me clarify, it wasn't pulled off because it was too high. It was because there was language in the contract for this school that was not consistent across the bid packages of all 41 campuses. And this school and in Araha Middle School had those, and I really wanted to just do this school, take out that section that we don't like, and I wasn't allowed to do that. But the bid was based on the scope of work, those things that we listed in the requirements that we wanted done, and what the bidders came out and actually looked at the facility, did measurements, looked at what it would take to do. So each school came in at a different price, depending on the campus and what it needed.
like if there were like similar projects in all schools, like I'm sure all the schools had like restroom renovations, and there's a set standard for all of that. So was there an option to bid that by project, by school, where you have one vendor and all of DOE schools would have the same format or same facilities, so it gives maintenance an opportunity to like have some backfill supplies by this is built a certain way, this other school is built a certain way, and maintenance has to wait for that specific supply to come in?
We do have the plan to go back and do restroom renovations in all the schools that are not included in the refurbishment. That's yet to be contracted, but we've developed the specifications for it. We're taking those specs right out of the original contract. We're not taking them out, we're copying them so that we can do a standard restroom. That's exactly what we're trying to do across the district.
I have a curriculum question.
My daughter has like one class where I guess the teacher was sick early on in the school year. So she spent most of her school year in the cafeteria, just sitting with her friends. How can she get actual credit for that? Or like, what is being done to kind of fix that?
I don't think I can answer that in front of everyone for the student, but the students that do come to the cafeteria, we do have their assignments sent by their teachers, and we carry it out.
Okay, because my understanding was that they were just staying in class and just being watched by one of the aides.
Well, we
So-
do have a process with our DCs. They work with the teachers for the activities, and then my staff can carry it out. But I need to meet with you to go over the details for your student.
Okay,
That way we can work that out, but I don't think we can discuss it here.
okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I said I was just going to observe this evening, but for the record, Mayor Kevin Suiko from Hoggett. I just want to do a follow-up question on the grass cutting contract. So, you know, every single mayor's office here on Island, I'm sure, is being asked, you know, I mean, in Dededo, you have 7 to 9 schools, and here in Hoggett, we take care of Marshall Sablan and OMS, and sometimes Southern High School. With the staff maintenance of only 5 personnel, we're tasked to not only take care of our municipalities, but when the schools reach out to us because grass cutting's not being done in the school, we have to take away from our community to come to assist with the schools. This is also a ding on, you know, for public health. And so when the school's coming up for inspection, right now you see all of the school days, the teachers that are out there volunteering, or, you know, from our efforts in trying to get our volunteers from our sister squadrons come down and help the schools. What is DOE doing to ensure that the grass cutting contract is actually going to be procured? From what I heard, or what we understand, is that it's coming up, or if it has been awarded, now it's only 1 month, right? Or once a month for grass cutting. That's not enough, right? Especially for Southern High School, and that's the reason why the sports facilities look like this here in the school. So once a month is really not gonna cut it. And then during summer, during the 3 months of summer, there's no grass cutting there too. And so again, at the opening of the school, there comes the school administrators asking for assistance through the different mayor's offices. And we do our very best for, you know, as mayors of our respective municipalities to come in and help the districts or the schools where our kids, you know, go for education. But it's also very burdensome on our office since we don't have that manpower. We don't look for a lot of excuses when it comes down to the schools. We try and do what we can. And so what can we do to get the schools funded so that way the maintenance, the grounds maintenance, are actually handled on a timely basis and not when something's procured? It's now, we're almost to summer and they still don't have a contract, right? So I'm not gonna sit here and say that everything on MCOG is nice and fine too, because we're still waiting for POs on our side, but you know, we're trying our best, right? And so that's the only thing we can do as leaders, is we try our best. But my question is, again, for DOE or for anyone that can answer it, is how can we ensure that the schools get the proper grounds maintenance that it needs to, you know, keep it beautiful and safe for everyone?
Yes, sir. We ran into a situation. We had 2 contractors. One of the contractors that had the larger amount of schools decided to quit. So what we had to do was go back and do another procurement for grass cutting. That procurement is currently in protest also from the other contractor. I won't go into all the details of that. Today I saw our legal office provided a response to that protest, and they're going to move forward on that this week. We have an emergency procurement ongoing for all the schools. Again, it's boiled down to the two contractors, and it's sort of flip-flopped. So right now, that emergency procurement is good until April 16th, Mark? And we're hoping that by then, we will have the larger contract that's being protested started again.
So is
that's
this-
where we stand right now.
Is this going to be a 9-month contract, or is this going to be
This will be a year. The one that's in protest is an entire year.
And do you know if it's actually going to be a 2-time cut per month, or is it just a 1-time cut?
It's based upon the month of the year. Mark, Mark is my lead on grass cutting, but
I just had to ask the question. I know that you're probably going to hear this at other.
during the
stakeholder
rainy
meetings, right?
season, it's going to be more than once a month.
Oh, and kudos to the aircon. I'm also a graduate of Southern High School, and I never felt aircon like this before in Southern High School. We went to school here with no AC, so to freeze over there is job well done. Sure.
Me and you switch the aircon as well. So the update for the IFB that's that's currently under protest, it's a once-a-month cut. And then on the winter months, it's once every 3 weeks. On not the winter months, the rainy season, it's one cut every 3 weeks. And the emergency procurement for the contract for the grounds maintenance is ongoing. March we're rolling into our second month into this 90-day contract for emergency procurement. And I also have the March schedule for the schools already. So I'll be pushing this out to the schools tomorrow.
Okay. Thanks for the update. I hope that, this is also something that we can go back to funding. At one point in time when I first took office, this was almost 10 years ago, we actually had the GMS contract under the mayor's offices where the different offices were in charge of the grass cutting, at least for the contracts. It helped because then we knew when the grass cutters were the grounds maintenance folks were going to be there. We had to be the ones to come over and certify whether or not they cut the grass right, or if they just came in and just did one area. And if they didn't do it, then we were the ones that said, well, we're not paying you, right? So it would help if you had somebody inspect the schools too at that point.
And with the project manager for this grounds maintenance, I'm actually going out to the schools and actually doing some spot check. I created a quality control form, customer performance survey that has to be cleared by the school principal or the designated representative, and then it'll filter up to my way for my approval. And if there's any issues or something that has to be addressed, then I will pay a visit to the school. But I actually do go out to the schools and
We
do
do
spot
not
check.
pay the bill until Mark's quality control check is.
Well, we have Mark on speed dial, so all the mayors will now know who
Pretty
to
sure you
call
do, Mayor.
for the issue.
Yeah.
Thank
Yes,
you.
do. Thank you.
Anybody else from the community would like to make?
There's just a few things that I'd like to ask and clarify. First off is, can we clarify why our library and gymnasium is closed?
Say it again.
Why is our library and gymnasium closed?
Oh, the citations we'll get from it because of temperature, humidity, and leaks will keep us from passing. So the same situation will be for the gym as well. The library is fully central air conditioning, and that package, I think they explained that based on the scope of work, there has to be a change made, and we're still waiting for that to be done.
Second, prior to this, I asked many of my peers and students here at Southern High what concerns they'd like to bring up if they couldn't attend today's meeting. The one thing that was really relevant to them is their own safety. You know, we only have a handful of aides on campus, and there are many areas on our school that are unsupervised and unwatched. From time to time, you'll hear students running because they're fighting, where people can't see, where the people are smoking, where people are, you know, doing inappropriate activities at some of these unwatched areas, like our bathroom as well. It's not just a safety or vandalism issue, it's not a sanitary or what's it called? The issue is with safety as well. There are many students that go in there to fight, to smoke, and it's just a big issue with many of our students. What can be done about that?
That's a very good question. So we're trying to get better educated on the challenges that the students are experiencing. One of the newer things for us as a school is substance abuse. The vape that the kids are using now has a higher concentration of nicotine. And when kids don't puff, they're going through withdrawals. The 3 highest incidents we have here at Southern High, number 1 is skipping. Number 2 is vaping. They're skipping to vape. That's a mental health issue that we're trying to get better on. So we're working right now with Student Support Division. They've been sending down some of their teams to do screenings for our students. All of our counselors were trained in brief tobacco intervention to address the kids that do get caught. We're seeing in the data that the higher rates of use are coming from middle school, so they're coming to high school already addicted. And that leads to things, right? If they want to vape, they need to find places to do it. And I agree with you, we need the staff in every part of the school, but based on our population, we only have 1,066. On paper, it looks like we have enough staff, but when you look at the school, it's huge. Those areas that we cordoned off still needs to be supervised because we have to make sure our kids are not getting there. That's going to be a challenge for upper management. How do they support me when I only have 1,066 students? I just have a bigger campus, so we're trying to be creative here with our staff, and I do feel bad for them, and I do need to advocate for them because we just don't have enough for the geography of our school. But that's a push and pull. I need to hire.
Thank you. Sir, if you have.
Good evening. This is better. Okay, yeah, my name is Derek Santos. I am the principal at Enron Middle School. And I'm actually wanted to talk to the senators because our management team have been sharing with us information about how we can move forward with our department. But there are bigger challenges that are, again, bigger than Southern High. Southern High is much needing this kind of support, and I'm glad that they're getting the recognition of what can be done. But I am also a school that is in need of support, and funding has been removed for obvious reasons that you heard earlier. And there are bigger things in the horizon for the Department of Education, and the senators are the only ones who can fund it appropriately. We have been sharing about how short we are financially. We don't make our own money, obviously, so we have to rely on the senators to fund us appropriately so that our schools, which are some are 60 years old, 50. My school is over 50. And we have equipment that are breaking down time and time again. The ARP funds are running out. You know this. It's going to be used for other reasons. I'm sure, you know, they're important things. But our facilities are breaking down tremendously. My students have to go to Talafofo field to practice, to play. That means the parents, grandparents, have to pick up the kids at 3:30 to bring them up to the field to practice because we can't use our own field for over a decade or more. And so, we're trying to address the things, and it's not one school, it's others. And this is a bigger picture. And in the next year or two, DOE will be inheriting another 4 schools that are going to be out of the 20-year contract, like Ukudu, Estumbo. So they're all enclosed environments. And so if, like Estumbo Middle, the water came crashing in, all that, mold, big time, right? Issues. Well, guess what? That is a DOE issue, but it's a legislative issue because we don't have funding. So again, year after year, I've been doing this for about 25 years, and the budget that we submit, it's not real because we never get what we need. Now, I understand you have other agencies they have to fund, but if DOE is going to be at the forefront of our future, then it better be at the forefront of what you guys do in the legislative sessions because we don't have the funding to sustain the things that we need. And so I'm speaking again on a larger scale other than Southern High or IMS. Our school is dilapidated. We don't even have working elevators. My staff have to lift the kid in a wheelchair to the second floor and down and all that stuff. We try to move the class down, we do. And every school does that. We've done a lot of things to try and meet requirements, but we get hit with public health, ADA, and no funding to, not even there's no funding, guys. And legislature is the only one that we can go to. Now, you already know what's happening with US DOE. We may not even have a US DOE. So I don't know what's gonna happen with that. But I do know that as the elective leaders, you're the ones that are gonna have to come up with solutions as to how DOE is gonna manage, because our superintendent didn't just come in and say, okay, now we got problems. We've had these problems for years, decades. It's just coming to the forefront because typhoon, mold issues, public health issues. I mean, they didn't come overnight. These are things that have been surrounding us, but we've always been closing our eyes to it. Now that we are putting it into the light, we need to get it addressed. And the only ones that can do that is the legislative branch. You're the only ones that can fund it. So this has to be a bigger picture. I don't know what the picture is going to look like for you because you have other agencies to deal with. But the kids, if they truly are the future, then you need to invest in them because our buildings are dilapidated, they're falling apart, and we need to address it. So I hope I can get my field fixed. I know Southern High, but I'm sure other schools are also in need of help. And I don't know if we'll ever get this kind of forum again because, frankly, yeah, it doesn't. We don't get it all the time. And if we do, does it, continue on with the momentum, or, okay, 2 weeks later, change the news? So, again, it is what it is, but we need the help. So, senators, please, again, on a larger scale, think about what's going to happen with the DOE.
Thank you. And I'll go ahead and comment before I give the mic to the speaker, who is the the leader within our majority. But as the committee chairman on education, right, my focus and has, whether I'm the committee chair on education, I understand the role of the government, right? And for me, the three most important things that I think government exists for, I mean, all the other things are nice to have, is that we take care of education, we take care of public safety, we take care of public health. As the committee chair, I mean, my commitment is that I think one, like even with my meeting with GDOE, I mean, we asked a question earlier in regards to how much it's gonna cost to fix Southern High. We don't know that number. I think it's important, not just for GDOE, but every government agency, and for every government agency that I've been in, and I'm a new senator, my question has always been, how much is it gonna cost to fix all your maintenance issues? And nobody ever really knows that answer. It could be it could be a government thing where they really, and for as long as I've been a senator, the last 2 months, all we ever hear is we need more money, but when we ask what you need more money for, we only know of like the big things that have probably made the media or that everybody is getting upset about. I think what we need to do, not just within GDOE, but government-wide, is really have a better maintenance program. I don't think anybody has a maintenance program, because if you had a maintenance program, you would know what is broken all the way down to the doorknob, to ACs and roofs leaking. And we don't have that, whether it be by agency or by school. So I think, even if we got that number, I know that we're not gonna get all the money, but I always say, if we have a big picture of what the maintenance program looks like, then when we look at our budget every year, or we get the surpluses that we talk about all the time, we don't know if they're really there, is that we can start fixing the little things that will eventually become big things. And then when there's a lot of money, then we fix the big things. So at least from my seat and as the chair on education, we're going to fight for the money that we need to address. I think maintenance is a big deal, especially because we want to ensure that schools open in time. I think another thing that we'll look at is whether or not, or ensure that teachers are getting paid, and that you have the support staff to operate the school and to support the initiatives and the objectives of all the leadership at the schools. But again, it takes more than one, right? I'm just the committee chair. It's going to take 7 other senators to ensure that we fund GDOE correctly, obviously with input from the board, right? And one more thing that I want to share, so that we're, because I shared this with the chairman of the Board of Education. My view on what the board, or where my responsibility is to work with the board, because they have the oversight and the responsibility of this, or supervision, or oversight of the superintendent who operates the school. My job is not to micromanage GDOE. I will ask the questions and ensure that the concerns, and that's what the purpose of this town hall is to hear from you guys directly on what are the issues you guys feel are most important, and then work with the chairman of the board and the superintendent to ensure those things are addressed. Obviously, money is going to be the big thing. And again, there are other priorities within the government that the governor has, and maybe other senators because of their oversight. But I think at the end of the day, whether I'm the chairman on the Committee on Education, I will always continue to fight that education, healthcare, and public safety are fully funded, because that is the primary responsibility and the main pillars of government. And that's my commitment to everybody here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Santos, and you know what I appreciate? I think for obvious reasons why I appreciate your comment. Okay. But, as I stated earlier, I don't want to go back to who's to blame or what, and move forward. However, yes, it is our responsibility as legislators to manage and to try to divvy out what we have locally. You have to also recognize that we have to take into consideration the monies that you receive, GDOE, that is not under our purview to see whether they can fit in other things. It concerns me when, and I'm not going to blame the current administration or the current board, because as Dr. Swanson had said, when he came in, he had to deal with a contract that didn't quite fit what was necessarily what was needed to be fixed. But unfortunately, for reasons like that, we had to return money. And previously, we used money in certain areas that could have been used to address some of the issues you had. That was out of our purview. We can only manage what we can manage in as far as the local funds. And so, as much as, yes, we'll take some of the hits for it, recognize that while we're trying to manage the money, we also have to look at the other resources that are available that we can't control, and see whether or not that $10 from here can take care of the $10 that you need over here, so you can use that $10 elsewhere. So we need to be very clear of that. Okay, because, again, I hear it every night. Just for the edification of everybody else. My wife's a teacher, okay? And so I hear it. And but I appreciate what you said, because yes, we had the opportunity, and there was the opportunity to be able to address a number of issues. But this board and the current management that you have here, we can't blame them. And so I'm not going to force that blame, or I'm not going to play that blame game. What do we need to do to move forward? And you bring up very good points, and so it's just our lesson learned, and we move forward from there.
I agree, Senator.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Again, I just want to make sure that we bring it to light that our schools are over 50 years old, 60, and it ain't, it's getting tougher every time to try and meet their requirements, and we are still falling short, especially with ADA compliance and all that. So again, as elected leaders, I'm just asking you guys to figure out best solutions moving forward so that we can all benefit as an island, because again, ultimately, the future of our kids are really in our hands. And so I want to thank you again for hearing me out. Okay.
Thank you. Senator, go ahead, sir.
I'm so sorry. My name is Sean Monforti. I'm the food service administrator, not the expert. I am the food service administrator. But I do want to go off and say everybody's talking about the facilities, everybody's talking about the maintenance, everybody's talking about mold mitigation. I've done it all at DOE. I really have. Now, what we're not talking about is the cafeterias are still part of the cafeteria, still part of the maintenance. They're still part of the facilities. We may be cold out here, but if you're cooking back there, you're sweating. There's no air conditioning back there. We have issues with the plumbing. We have issues with the grease traps. We have issues with the food. Public Law 2732 was the maintenance contract on the cafeteria contracts going to privatize, right? We were supposed to contract those out, correct? That is why we're in that, because we were contracted out a lot of these projects. We rolled over a lot of the contracts. It never went through. They had good and bad points. The food service management contract, it went out as a bid so we can save money on food services. Now the food service management contract is really high. We could probably save money if we go back to local contracts. I would love to work with any of you guys to see if we can get that done. Now, the mold mitigation, we went through so many different phases on the mold mitigation. It ended up going to GSA because of a funding source. That's what it was. It was the funding that went over there. I'm not sure if nobody seems to be talking about the funding. It was a funding source that went to GSA. It was the same as the fencing. It was over there too. So that's what happened with the mold mitigation. I'm listening to a lot of it. But what I do want to say is, we do have issues with the maintenance of our classrooms and our air conditions and our bathrooms, but even our plumbing, our sewers, our cafeterias, they're all a part of it. We tend to look over it. Like, we're in a protest right now. I have not heard anybody from upper management say anything about the food commodities contract being in protest. They always kick that out. But you want to hear about the grass cutting? Yeah, they give you the grass cutting contract. So you can have high grass, but if you don't have food in your schools, you don't have school. Sorry, I just feel a little bit not heard over there. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I have to thank Derek Santos for coming up and talking about the funding question, because that was really kind of what I wanted to hit on. So I'll try to be brief in my question. So this is really a question, I think, targeted towards the senators. And then I guess, maybe as a secondary, it could be for the board member up here, as well as maybe the deputies. But the question that I always keep coming back to when it comes to GDOE is always about, okay, we hear talk from certain senators who may not be present, a certain senator who may have or may not have been the oversight in the previous term, talking about how GDOE has to live within their means. You have to live within your means. You've requested, we've heard it multiple times before, the previous session, or the previous year, we requested a budget of $303 million. This was supposedly supposed to be a very bare bones budget. And yet here we are in the next year when the budget finally passed and it's severely shorted. And all of this talk about how GDOE has to live within its means, it's so frustrating as somebody who, my name is Jordan Bukikosa. I was formerly with the department. I'm no longer employed by the department. I've moved on to other opportunities. But going back to the point, is we've seen this discussion about how, okay, well, this is the budget you have, live within your means. My question to you all senators is, I know you, maybe most of you, were not involved in passing that budget. That's fine. But I want to know is, point out within GDOE operations anywhere, if you can show me where how many millions, tens and tens of millions of dollars you want us to find this money for Southern High School, for Inarajan Middle School, for all of the different contracts. We've got most of it through with ARP. That's great. There's a lot of funding realities that go into federal grants. There are requirements. If you have a 20% requirement that this amount of money has to go to curriculum, there's a reality there where, look, we can't just say we're going to go and expend more ARP funds to cover that because, hey, it's available, right? But it's not necessarily always available, and that's why it was refreshing to hear the oversight chair say, oh, my job is not to micromanage. That's so refreshing. And the one thing I will say, which kind of it caught my attention when you said is you're going to work with the board, I just want to remind everybody, the board's job is not to micromanage GDOE either. I'm tired of this culture of, oh, when we go down to the legislature, the senators are accusing GDOE management of silencing the employees. I've never, in my experience in my office in GDOE, and I was a limited term employee where I did not have classified status to protect me, but I was never at any moment silenced by my boss saying, hey, don't talk about this. Some senators, I don't know, if your PR people are on Facebook watching comments of people, I'm on Facebook trying to fight misinformation about, oh, this is what's in the GDOE budget or what's not in there, or this is what GDOE is spending money on or what's not in there. This, I understand is a GDOE issue where we need to be more proactive in defending our actions, and I feel that that's an area where maybe we need to work a little bit more on. But when it comes to the funding matter, I really just have that question for you senators, is please show the public, where are you saying that we're going to be able to find this money from? Of course, again, I understand many senators, you were not here in that previous term. But that whole fight about the budget and saying GDOE has to live within its means on an underfunded level, it just blows my mind that this is the level of the discussion we're having. I want to know where you think we're going to find the money. And then I also offer that question to the management as well. Could you show us any possible areas where you think that we could cut tens of millions of dollars? Do we fire the teachers? Do we fire the FNS administrator? Do we fire the social workers? Do we fire the truancy officers? Please tell me, because I just don't see it. And I don't think the public should be lied to about where is the money coming from.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker?
Thank you for the question, and I'll bring that up to you. Earlier today, we had the discussion about how much money was needed for the repairs. And interestingly enough, in order to be able to have included Southern High in the repairs, it would have cost us an additional $20 million. A couple years ago, and again, I can't blame anybody that's here because they weren't here. They weren't there. Dr. Swanson wasn't in a position of anything. 20 years ago, Guam Department of Education had $21 million set aside for our school repairs. Okay? They decided to be able to use that money elsewhere for operations. At the same time, the legislature had or the government of Guam had about $60 million in excess funding that could have been utilized. But nobody came to us. And so when I questioned GDOE as to why they were using that money for that process, they said, oh, don't worry, we don't need it. We don't need it for the repairs. We're going to go ahead and use it for this. I said, did you realize that you could have asked us for that money? I'm sure the oversight chair or the chair for finance would have been able to provide it to you. Oh, no, that wasn't. I don't want to get into the politics of it or what that money was used for, because that's water under the bridge, but that's an example of that. So when we try to be able to do these things and we find where it's being, in one thing it's being shorted for another, you leave us in a predicament because now we're to blame because you're short. When in fact you shorted yourself for that. And that's just but one instance that I know of. Okay? So, you know, I hope, and I get your point and I see it. And I know it's frustrating. And it's frustrating for a lot of other employees too that are sitting behind you and around you that knew full well that that money could have been used that way, but management at the time decided else. Okay? So, you know, I need to bring that up so that I can show you that I mean, we don't like it either when we have to pull teeth the way we have to pull teeth. But when it's pretty obvious, and you got to admit, over the last 5 years, okay, this government has gotten more money than it's ever gotten before. I remember right now, the last year's budget was $1.7 billion. You know, when I came into the government in Guam, okay, back in 2002, the government of Guam was operating at $400 million. And how we've grown since then. So now we're taking a look, that's why, take a look at where the other funding sources that you have that we have no control of, and we try to balance it. And then when we start to see that, you know, your utilization of this funding over here that I can't touch, when you ask us over here that if we could use the money on this side so that you can use that money, again, this thing says it's $20 million short. The GDOE used $21 million for something else other than the repairs because they said they didn't need it. So who am I supposed to believe? Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker, for that answer. I completely agree with you when it comes to the previous management that, like we said, we need to look at the historic, issues, but also the issue is we're looking at the now. And when I look to ARP funds, for example, which is, the big pot, of course, many of the senators in the previous legislature, they were very frustrated by the issues of, do we have enough oversight of it? Do we have any input on it? I understand that very much. The problem that I'm seeing here is that if we look at the actual expenditures of ARP, we see that a gigantic chunk of it is dedicated to the repairs. And the issue is there's simply not enough. Again, like I said, there's a 20% requirement for curriculum-related projects and whatnot. Outside of ARP, sure, you had the ESF, the Emergency or Education Stabilization Fund. But again, these were not targeted towards general maintenance and repairs of schools. So what I'm looking at is, like you said, right, we want to focus on the moving forward. And now the question of, for example, we want to put an entire army of maintenance workers covering 80 personnel that are going to be out for the schools. How are we going to pay for that? And how are we going to pay for all the teachers? How are we going to pay for all these other things? And so that's more of where my question is lying down, and where, I understand the concerns about previous federal funds that were not, I couldn't even say because, like I said, I was temporary employee. I was not there at the time either as well. But regardless, that's not the question. The question is, when we go to budget talks this year, just like with last year, right, there was a question of how much is really appropriate. I urge all of the senators to please keep this in mind. There is no more federal grant here at GDOE. The question is, how do we fund it moving forward locally? And if you are in disagreement with the proposal of the maintenance teams, let that be known up front, because otherwise we go back to the discussion of, can we nickel and dime a million here? Can we nickel and dime a million here? But it still doesn't address the multi-tens and tens of millions, and that's the issue.
Thank you. Senator Gumatato, did you have a question or comment?
Can you guys hear me? Good evening, everybody. And first off, just want to say to all of my neighbors in Talafofo, I want to thank you all for being here today. You had a great question. And I think one of the first answers has to be prioritization of what's going to be done in our schools. And the only ones that can really kind of shape that are the school communities themselves. It's going to be a very hard task. I see principals here from Southern schools. They are going to have a really, really hard decision on what is really the true priority of the schools. We are all, across all of our budgets, are going to have to cut. You made a great point. The ARP monies will be gone. So what do we do in response? I was part of that team many moons ago when the ESF actually was for capital improvements. I think I see Mary Okada back there. They had a ton of cash, over $500 million back in 2010 that were earmarked for capital projects. That is, as the speaker mentioned, it's under the bridge. Water under the bridge. We are here now. So it's priority. Unfortunately, we're going to have to cut. I think I agree with your plan, but you're missing other trades. We don't see the grass cutting trades that could be here to help maintain these schools. And for the longest time, grass cutting was a major part of not just DOE, but also the other agencies. I don't know if you know, but I don't think that the Department of Public Works, which is responsible for all of the line agencies, they're not going to have a maintenance team as big as DOE. In fact, I think they're less than a dozen to maintain all of the line agencies. So it goes back to priority. Is it a reality that are we going to have to face this and say, yes, we're going to have to fund parts of this government, but we're also going to have to cut. And I ask my friends here in the South to remember that there's other ways to take care of some of the facilities here, especially at Southern High School. I see the mayor of Santa Rita here. I was part of a group but a couple months ago. You might want to consider fencing off the school part and give the fields in the schools to nonprofits that can help maintain those sports fields, the baseball field, the softball field, the football field. You can give it to them. And I think it was one of our former superintendents who mentioned that might be the best solution. Guess what? That was back in 2010, maybe 26, whatever it was. But it's 2025. We can't continue to do business the way we have been doing it. I know that Tim's here on behalf of all the teachers, and he's listening too, because importantly is going to be that delivery of education. But we will have to prioritize. And what is the most important really boils down to their main mission, which is to educate our kids. So as I say that, and I've been listening, I was hoping that we would get an answer to the gentleman earlier to bullying, because that's also a big part in our problems in our schools that lead to all of the other parts that we really don't want to see. And to answer your question, young man, you know what the problem is? That we have to start to respect the things that are done in this school, and Mr. Meno and all of the teachers that support your school, because they're busting their butts to take care of all of you to make sure that you're getting that school education. And I've witnessed him at Inarajan Middle School, where my kids went to, and also to Mr. Santos. They are really great administrators and teachers. All of you, I would hope you would go back to your classmates and tell them, hey, we need to listen. We need to be respectful of the school administration, and not just at Southern, but all of the Southern schools. They have to listen. I hope you'll take that message to your classroom. You take that message to what would be your PE, whatever that is. But this is a great school that can do good things, but you also have to be a part of it. And your parents, I think they would be probably really happy if you guys would just respect the teachers and administrators here. I know there's parent-teacher organizations here too. They need kudos too. But I would strongly recommend and Mr. Meno, you're doing a great job here. Continue your good work, and I'm just going to stop talking now. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Gumutata. Anybody else from the community? We got time for a couple more. One more.
Hello, my name's Marvin Linder. I'm freezing right now, so I may be shaking while I'm talking to you. I'm the athletic director here at Southern. I've been teaching here more than 15 years. When I first got here, I cut the grass. I cut the grass for the playing fields.
And you lined it too, right?
Yes, and I lined it. We've come a long way. I'm not only the athletic director, but I want y'all to, I'm not gonna request anything, I just want y'all to think about the kids. Our school hasn't been able to fundraise anything for our clubs, our graduating class. We play basketball, we had a game tonight at Ocean View. We don't practice, we practice rugby or wrestling in this room here, because it's the only place we have. And like you said, everybody is new here. But this has been going on for decades. And so even if the board don't address it, people should open their eyes and see it. I remember maybe 4 or 5 years ago, one of the board members came down and looked at the fields. And matter of fact, a couple months ago, Mark saw me bush cutting behind our building in 4000 because the grass was as high as this table. Think about the kids, okay? And Southern needs to be fixed. Maybe if we do one thing at a time. I walked around and we talked about fixing the football field as a priority, because that's the majority of our sports that we need a field for. Our second priority was fixing our baseball field, because I told him, I said, if we can get the football and baseball field fixed, I can play baseball and softball on my baseball field. But if I fix my softball, I can't play baseball on it. So we're trying our best to get this stuff done. And I know money's gonna run out soon. We don't know what they're gonna do with federal funding. And I'm also the director of VISA. And I know Southern's the only school other than Sanchez, but they have JFK's facilities. But we don't have anything. And we haven't had anything since the beginning of the year. And we have a graduating class that has to spend about $20,000 on a graduation that they're not fundraising like they should be. So I want y'all to think about that. And the second thing I want to say is our funding for sports in general for all the high schools is, luckily for us, we're using the life readiness funding. We're borrowing from that because coaches are teachers too. They teach kids how to be responsible adults, how to treat people, how to respect people. So we've gotten a raise for our coaches. First time since 1986. Coaches were making the same amount of money they were making in 1986, just 2 years ago. That's ridiculous. And they spend a lot of time with our kids. Second thing is our money has went down. And I know we haven't gotten our Healthy Future Fund. I don't know what's going on with it. I don't know the politics involved. I know it's been going down in funding because cigarette smoking has went down. Vaping has went up. Maybe you guys can help us by start taxing vaping and bring more funding to the schools. But I think it starts, the teachers did a lot here at Southern. We helped the aides. And another thing I wanted to bring up is the public health. I wish public health was here. Because, some of the things we get dinged on is stupid. They come into my classroom and said it was too bright. I need curtains. Then they said the windows open up like these and there's no shutter. So we had to screw the windows shut. These nitpick things caused us to close. And that's unfortunate because a majority of our school was safe. There are a lot of buildings that need to be fixed, but my classroom was safe. But I had to spend a week fixing little things in it. And the aides, we painted our hallways. We painted our rooms. I water blast behind my building. We painted our ADA. None of the schools are ADA compliant. And that's an unfunded mandate, which means it's got to come from Guam. It can't come from the federal government. But we don't have handicap parking. We got blue paint, so we started painting the handicap parking. And this is not the only school. Every school's like that. If you go to a game, the only schools that have handicap parking are the ones, there's 4 high schools that have contracts, and if they run out, we're going to be in worse shape. But you look at the 2 schools who don't have contracts, it's us and GW. Sanchez will have one once they get their school built, which I don't know why it hasn't started yet. I still haven't figured that out. It's ridiculous. But GW and Southern are only two set schools that don't have contracts, and we were the worst schools, worst shaped schools when public health came around. Luckily for GW, they had a funding. They were part of the group that got funding for the refurbishment. We got it taken away from us, so did IMS. And ironically, IMS and Southern are the last two schools to open because of public health. So I just want you to be aware that these kids are important to us. I wouldn't spend my time here, and none of these teachers would spend their time, extra time here, doing all this work. The aides did an outstanding job. They worked 12 hours a day. And we do it for the kids. We do it for the kids. But it's aggravating when, and it all boils down to money. I don't think we should blame anybody. I think we should start fixing this. I mean, because I don't want to be here 10 years from now and have the same situation where we have to meet and discuss this stuff. I think the deputy's doing a great job. He's just got into this job. The superintendent came into this job, and it was a hot seat. When I first met him, I said that. I said, you came into a good job. Because he came in, and it's tough. I was in a meeting when they told us that they had $24 million slotted for Southern, and they said, oh, we're going to use it elsewhere. It pisses me off. Our kids need somewhere to call home and to practice. Our sports are hurting. We've only had one team for for soccer, volleyball and basketball. We usually have to make cuts. But since a kid has to come here to school and go to Telefofo to practice, they don't have the rides. They can't stay after school like they normally do and practice. So I just want y'all to think about the kids and try to fix this stuff. There's a lot of things that need to be done, and I don't want to be here 2 or 3 years from now doing the same thing. And they asked me, well, is this going to get fixed? I said, well, yeah, they said it was going to get fixed, but I'm not going to tell you it is. Seeing is believing. Actions speak louder than words. And that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. One more. We have time for one more. Anybody else have any comments from the community? Any last comments here from the team?
I just want to thank everybody that has come here today to put their comments forward. I want to thank also our oversight chair, Senator Vincent Borja, and all the senators that are here, trying to learn more about the state of our schools. Our vice chair, Dr. Mary Okada, is out there in the crowd. She was chair up to just last month. I am now the new chair of the board. And let me tell you, we hear you. And we too are frustrated at the board for what has been going on for years. It is not Dr. Swanson's fault. It is not this board's fault. But we promise you, we're going to get to the bottom and find the answers as to why we are where we are today. We talk about funding. Right here's the money man that's been funding us for many years. Of course, we have a new finance man, Senator Chris Duenas, and we know he's receptive to helping GDOE. Our funds are going to be gone this year. If you haven't heard, the $125 million contract that we put out for the 12 schools, although there's been a lot of work done, there's still more work to be done, but we may not be able to pay for it, although the contract is out, although the contract is being worked on. Because USDOE has informed us that they have now a new payment system Whereas before, when we get the invoices, our people here, they would draw down for that amount, and the contractor gets paid. Now, we have to pay for it up front. Money that GDOE does not have to pay. We'll get clarity on that. Hopefully that is not the final decision of USDOE, but if it does, we're in deep kimchi because we're not going to be able to finish the contracts. We're not going to be able to help Southern High School. We're not going to be able to help any school on the island. FB Leon Guerrero is on contract to be completed. Actually, it's supposed to be completed last January. But when the new president came in and said that all these illegals, wherever you are, if you're around, we're going to catch you and we're going to send you home. Well, guess what? FB Leon Guerrero had those kind of employees under the contractor. So the workers never show up because they're scared to be nabbed and sent home. Although you don't know that story, that's the real story. So now, FB Leon Guerrero is not going to be completed. It was not going to be completed in January. It's now scheduled for July. And if it's not done in July, it's not because there's no workers. It's because probably we're not paying the contractor to finish the school. So yes, I'm happy that the senators are here, but we got to work with them. The superintendent, and Dr. Carter knows this, we've been trying to get on top of him to make sure that whatever penny we get, we put it out to the students and to the schools. No more wasting of funds. We've lost millions of dollars in federal funds because GDOE did not have time to use it all. We've got contracts galore that all are in protest. We can't fix the fence because they didn't measure how many feet they needed. So it's in protest again. Mold mitigation, although public health has passed, and congratulations to all our schools that have been passing with C and above, because they'll continue to keep open. And I congratulate all of you that have been working in the schools to make sure that it remains open. But mold mitigation is also under protest. Grass cutting is under protest. Add to that, we have an AG that has taken more than his share of time to send these contracts back out to us, to GDOE, so that it can be processed. Some of that is the reason why we've lost money, is because we couldn't get it out so that we can get it to GSA or get it to our GDOE procurement to turn it into a purchase order. So there's enough blame to go around, but I want to assure you that we're not looking back anymore. We're looking forward. And we talked about the sports facilities here at Southern High. We have on the table right now, and I just discussed this with the superintendent today and yesterday and the day before yesterday. We've got the baseball field, we've got the track and field, we've got the softball field, we've got the swimming pool. We've got a beautiful sports facilities here at Southern High. Unfortunately, it's crap. But there is a proposal on the table to cut out that portion where the facilities are at from Southern High, because there is funding. Though the GDOE has no funding for it, it's going to cost over $8 million to rehabilitate all those fields. There is money in hazard mitigation funding that the Lieutenant Governor is willing to put forward to assist and repair and refurbish and put to usefulness all the fields here at Southern High. The only thing we have to do is cut that portion where the recreational facilities are at out of the footprint of Southern High, so that it does not become a part of the school where a public health is going to come in and say, your damn swimming pool is full of toads, 60 demerits, you're closed. So what is the better option? The better option is that we find the agency that has the money to repair and fix the facilities here with the caveat that Southern High School students get first priority in using the fields once it's repaired and it's fixed. We're going to get it fixed so that our athletic director does not have to send kids to Telefofo, so that Simon Sanchez School can come down here maybe and use the field once in a while, because they don't have a field by themselves either, or any other school can come here and use it. But it's going to be for Southern High first and Santa Rita Sumay community second. But that's on the table. So he's working with the legal counsel to make sure that that happens. If you don't know, Southern High sits on military land, on federal land. We leased this from the military to the government of Guam, and it expired in 2021. So that means the government is now free from fear of the military coming in and say, I want my property back. It can now be used by the government of Guam, but again, only for educational or public purposes, not for investment from somebody from China or somebody from wherever they're coming from. It remains here for the people of Guam and the use for the people of Guam. And so there is a commitment that once we get this going, I'll tell you, Senator Tina Mino Barnes said that that swimming pool is not Olympic size. It's not Olympic size by just 2 inches. And whoever did that design should be shot, because they should have added those 2 inches to make it Olympic size swimming pool. There's nothing wrong. It's been assessed there's nothing wrong with the pool, except it sits on a sinkhole. So you've seen it full of water before. We have to decide what we're going to do with it. Do we fill it up and forget about the swimming pool, or spend $6 million and repair it and use it for a swimming pool? Some people have said, let's change it into a skate park. It's probably better used and cheaper. When they built this school, it was a beautiful school, but it has never been 100% used. There's always been a wing here or a wing there or whatever, not in use. There's a proposal actually, because this is such a large school and a large facility, to take it from pre-K all the way to 12 in this same facility. But when I was talking to the superintendent about that, he said that's going to be a nightmare, because you're going to have elementary little kids running around with all the high schoolers and all that, all in one campus. It's done in other places. But the thing is, we've overbuilt. And we're not going to make that same mistake with Simon Sanchez. We're not going to overbuild Simon Sanchez. We're going to build it for the purposes we need now. I went to Agana Heights Elementary School. That school is over 60 years old. Almost as old as me. I went there, right? So I'm older than the school. But the thing is, every school on Guam, like Derek said, needs refurbishment, needs repair, needs touch up. But we just don't have that kind of money. And starting this year, we better start tightening our belts, because no matter how much money the legislature gives us, it ain't gonna be enough. It will never be enough. Because GDOE gets the biggest chunk in the government of Guam for funding. But everybody else in the government of Guam needs funding as well. And they all need to survive. Talking about a friend there that says that his kid was being bullied and has kids that are vaping and smoking and drinking. On March 4th, if you don't know yet, we have an MOU with the Guam Police Department. Every high school on Guam is going to have one school resource officer from GPD dedicated to that school, remaining in that school the whole time the school is in session. So that's going, Mr. Superintendent, that starts next week, March 4th.
Yes.
Tangay Superintendent, sometimes he can't hear. But Dr. Adamus, we're going to have the school resource officers from GPD. It's a new program, but we're going to have uniformed police officers in each of our high schools to help assist with the bullying, with all these other stuff that are coming around in our schools, and identifying them. The police officers are not going to be there to look for who's doing what. They're going to be there to try to maintain peace, calmness, and just have a source of see, I time my people on my school board, now they're timing me. So, so that's how I got to say. I just want to make this commitment to you. Your school board now, myself, Dr. Okada, Mr. Tim Fedenko, Isaiah, Ms. G. Gutierrez, Ms. Kristen Baleto, Felicitas Angel, Carla Borja, Dr. Juthi Gutherts, Dr. Ron McNidge, and the mayor of Dedido, Mayor Peter Benavente. We're all committed. We're all committed to working with all of you to make sure that our schools move forward, not backwards. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as we come to the close of tonight's town hall, I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to everyone who took the time to be here and engage in this important conversation. Your voices, students, parents, teachers, administrators, and community members, you are invaluable as we work toward real solutions for our schools. Tonight was not just about a discussion, it was about action. The insights shared here and every month hereafter at a different school will guide the next steps that we take as policymakers, educators, and advocates for our children's futures. I assure you that this is not the end of our conversation, but the beginning of a stronger, more collaborative effort to address the needs of our schools and students. Once again, thank you to Southern High School community for hosting us, to my colleagues of the 38th Guam Legislature, the Guam Department of Education, the Guam Education Board, GFT, and all those who played a role in making this town hall possible. Let's continue to work together with open minds and dedicated hearts to ensure that every student in Guam receives the education and the support they deserve. The time is now 8:48. Thank you and have a great evening. We are adjourned.